Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep this quick. Yeah, it's kind of thinking about that the Austin Powers movies, the Austin Powers movie, and there's one particular movie, and there's the similarities of what seems to be my thought about the Austin Powers Blue Planet Imperial Eagle, and I don't know what I'm getting a glitch here for, like a processing speed issue. Uh, Maybe because I'm actually uploading and recording at the same time. But anyway, um, yeah, there shouldn't be a glitch with the processing speed there. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So like um, yeah, there's like the movie. There's like this one particular scene and the similarities of Austin Powers and the one blonde in the wheelbarrow. And it seemed like, I mean, it's like a J. Kyle's freeze frame, but it's not a freeze frame. But I mean, it's only a few seconds of the wheelbarrow and her in it, and it's almost like, in my mind, like the actual barrel of fun at the same time. Predominantly, 55-gallon barrel drums were identified as drums. I mean, I heard all that. I mean, it sounded like I knew that, right? Me being a drummer, and really, didn't really think of it as like, being a drum, like percussion in music, okay? It's just like the thing about even a copper, uh, you know, uh, tube as photoconductive material on an outer layer being orange like a cambium, or the silver selenium thing about drum. But anyway, it's kind of like a cylindrical deal, ultimately getting to the pi squared thing about the, pi squared representing some idea of the word, it seemed to be the difference between like a flat plane surface or the anticipation of isometrics between a flat plane being like a maybe area as compared to circumference that would present the issue of isometrics of three-dimensional identified as volume. But it's the same. Excuse me. Yeah. In any case, yeah. So like yeah. But anyway, yeah. I was thinking about that because you think about the um, it's really not a freeze frame, but it seemed to be some combination between just a few seconds of one particular similarity of a coupon and some idea like the Swiss Klondike bar and a hockey stick and a hockey puck and the colon double forward slash the HTTP in Zion and 1,000 Years of Peace in Grover Cleveland and the thing about the Utah. Some idea of like Abraham Lincoln Night Vision that way, and the thing about Juneteenth and June 19th as compared to like Kobe ID 19. And the similarities with like the Central Time Zone and Chicago Bears as compared to the Bering Straits, and the thing about them um thing about the polar the ice bear thing. Yeah, I'll think about it in the domicile head of household as compared to the amphibious thing about the igloo as compared to the eggshell, the Eggman, and in any case, yeah. So like in any case, I was thinking about that movie Austin Powers because I'm actually trying to remember. As a matter of fact, I tried to find it. It's kind of like some idea of like intellectual duration. I mean, it's been that way sometimes, and actually, it's like there, and it's and realizing something about that, um, like one and only, and think about it, like what I'm really kind of referring to is like some bands. Predominantly, I noticed that some bands that would present like only a song that was only available on the radio as a release and not on any compact disc years later, like in Pearland anyway, in the Houston area, and Queensryche is one of them. The song last time in Paris, um, it was like a thing on the radio. Okay, actually finding it and actually getting it, on compact disc or MP3 format or whatever the case may be, as a single. I mean, it just wasn't available at the time. Okay, and it seemed to be like just like in this area, realizing the when and where, what would be maybe the thought of maybe an intellectual based upon memory itself, as compared to like what intellectual property represents, and in entertainment more so like compact disc and like DVDs as intellectual property, or the thought of some idea of like the memory being some idea of like I don't know if I would call it transparency, other than maybe some idea like now seemingly to be the difference between a post production involving like customizing waveform of the absolute outer parameters um, used as the horizontal in post production, as compared to the thing about the perpendicular spiral digital signal processor, and the vertical with the transparent type of a vertical absolutes as parameters of an audible digital readout. And like I said previously, it's kind of like the one and only time that I'd seen it had been at Commandos, and like at the time I didn't even know what I was looking at. I mean, I'd heard the word perpendicular quite a bit at certain locations. I mean, there was like no connectivity or some idea of a 90-degree as a right angle of like, identifying, cycles per second in oscillation would be maybe identified like on like paper as like a two-dimensional flat plane surface, as compared to what would be a three-dimensional perception of like blueprints of like that would give the impression of like the actual perception of actual participation, like 3D sometimes actually suggests, a little bit more beyond the thought of like even a method of banking of just a signature of an endorsement on a checking account. But yeah, so I mean, it presents that issue of like isometrics and amphibious in a way, yet above some idea of like what would present maybe transparency as a horizontal as compared to a vertical, like would seem to be the deal about the perpendicular spiral and design on the outer concrete rails of the design on the south side of the Gulf Freeway at FM 528 Master Road 1 and the Gulf Freeway I-45. Presenting one cycle with like dots, a chronological loop would almost give the impression, anyone who knows anything about Morse code, the line with the dot and a series and sequence that way, except with one cycle per second representing like a waveform. Not necessarily a net of 90 presenting, like a circle with a dot, and ultimately the pylons and the thing about, trigonometry as well as geometry, and, even the thought of like, Statue of Liberty and all that stuff about the atmosphere and Seven Nations and Monies of Europe and all that stuff on home theater presenting, the Alphanumerics 192 and amplification AA and the amphibious thing like AAA and towing beyond like maritime law and front lines of the beach on international financial management. I mean, it had gotten to the point of, the Federal Aviation Administration and Federal Communications Commission with like AAA presenting, thing about some information, and what I'm referring to is like, I mean, it seemed to me like the biblical scripture, Jesus, the Lord Jesus Christ said he knew you before the foundation of the earth. And so basically, it's so analytical sometimes about like all the information that's available, even not on SSI, but presenting the issue what SSI is as some idea of like looking in the direction that would all be the automatic available based upon the conditions or economic or I don't want to call it limitation because of the Mississippi and the ISS and the SSI thing about the triangle being the biggest mouth of the river being the triangle and the delta identified as the triangle and Plymouth Rock and all that stuff about I mean, if the colon represents some idea of ratio or some idea of like access. Yeah, so like in that way, it's kind of like all the analytical stuff with the information on SSI, supplemental security. I mean, it presents like an amphibious, like transparent. I don't know if I'd really call it levitation based upon the thought of anything other than something that would give reference to like the Transfiguration at Mount Olives and the plateau thing. Many people in Christian religion don't identify or probably even associate the plateau as really what it's shown as and identified as, but not even talk about or mention like in the movie Ten Commandments or described, Jesus going to Mount Olives and actually like re-entering heaven and ascending and even the second coming. I mean, in that way of the rapture, presenting the same issues at a different level, and it's still in the way and in that way. So like in the case, so like all the information it seems to present that of like non-taxable income and prepaid tax and supplemental security as a benefit, yet likewise with the even the student loan, it presents all that stuff about who's in control, what grace is in that way of like being amphibious or the freedom that presents not boundaries and limitations based upon some idea of like economics, manufacturing options that would only how true it is about the way incorporation is actually manufactured, because it's not ever even talked about being manufactured or what it means in a geographical area as only that, as what availability means only based upon manufacturer geographic options and futures, or some idea in that way. But anyway, it's kind of like the information of non-taxable income as compared to prepaid tax, or whether if a student loan combined with a Pell Grant is only the issue between forbearance or default, a positive or a negative, or legal media deposition as compared to live on air as compared to the memory. If the memory is an active factor of duration, contributive in a productive way as compared to maybe null and void based upon some idea of like its use would only be significant or not. And I guess that really sometimes matters, and it seems to be like a big deal about some of the information that's provided as like thing like about the scriptures. Just look Jesus Christ knew before the foundations of the earth. It's almost like the new development. Identifying what maybe some people would still maybe not realize, being amphibious and actually identify Holy Land, and ignorantly not know maybe at a degree level somewhere else they'd be identifying maybe some idea of like is it a registered charity or a certificate of deposit, and who's like really above the idea of like non-negotiable non-transferable itemization only based upon a degree level of reputable standards of consensual participation and all that price of gold going up and down, but like the golden arches of McDonald's and the thing about the electronic fish being like a half cycle above and low and chronological, yet presenting itself as a degree level of reputable standards of consensual participation in the now thing, and being like the electronic fish of like the Christian symbolic representation of the fish swimming upstream about the clams and the Calamity Jane thing about prepaid postage and what that is to the Mississippi and all that triangle and power square. It seemed to be the big deal about what now seems to be like I'm actually thinking about the movie Austin Powers, and like Robert Plant seems to be the thing about I have my flower, I have my power, I have a woman who knows. Well, anyway, it's kind of like it goes in that, and it's the O. Yeah, I had the Prohibition, VSX, ISS, Mount Olive, Plateau, yeah, and my Line 6 V series, yeah, Seventh Heaven combo, yeah. It's kind of like it goes to like really good. I'm probably going to think about maybe some lyrics to go with it, because it seems to be the deal about the Permian Basin and what the San Jacinto Monument seemed to be like a 3-in-1, if not 4-in-1, including maybe Y1 pronouns. The 4 types of pronouns cannot be used as a subject, and the thing about a star being born, or a telepathic star being born, or what that symbolic representation to the upper right of the eye on top of the pyramid represents as some kind of like almost like spirit of adoption, or some like a spirit of adoption, alphanumeric geographic. So like some telepathic mediation, telepathic birth of mediation that way. Yeah. Geographically, I mean, studying alphanumerics and linguistics that way, as compared to like once again, Galveston County being 213, and Los Angeles area code, okay, and think about Chevrolet Silverado and Chevrolet Camaro IROC Z28 and alphanumerics 213, telepathic brainwaves and surface to air, and all that holiday season as compared to some idea of other factors beyond like the Christmas season. Yeah, so like in any case, so yeah, and in any case, so like I was thinking about that movie Austin Powers, because there's a similarity to the coupon laser. Yeah, and I'm going to kind of ease off that, because I mean, but anyway, I thought I mentioned it about the wheelbarrow, because it's like the connectivity of alphanumerics, and I'll actually have to think about it, and I'm not going to do it right now, but the wheelbarrow and the alphanumerics are like, it seemed to be the deal between the cosmonaut and the astronaut, and some idea of like logic circuitry beyond gastroenterology. Yeah, and the thing about naming it 2-1 hold Neptune, and the Uranus and the Venus thing. But anyway, what alignment in the parallel universe would only represent maybe if that's going to really be the idea of like Abraham Lincoln night vision as an eclipse. Yeah, so like in any case, yeah, so like that one thing, I mean, it's only a few seconds of the similarities of a coupon, in that movie, the wheelbarrow. I mean, it's just like almost like a freeze frame, but in any case, I mean, that's just something in my mind, because of the connectivity. It seems to be the Six Flags asteroid being, Astroworld, and I think for a short, brief time, I'm not sure how long it was, but Astroworld actually turned to Six Flags, and then I think then moved to San Antonio, and changed its predominant theme as I think it's the Fiesta um, Six Flags. Yeah, I think. Anyway, although Six Flags is like a Dallas thing as well, but anyway, yeah. So like the thing of it is that Six Flags. I mean, many people might not see a presidential thing of Theodore to Franklin Roosevelt in the New Deal Act of Six Flags, or what amusement would only mean to maybe the thought of the. I'd mentioned this earlier about one of the wealthiest European museums. Not that an amusement, but it seemed to be like the roller coaster thing about the GIT, Geospatial Information Technology, and like a Christian how many see anyway? There's like the Christian band for him, okay, and they sing that song "Roller Coaster Ride," and it seemed to be the theme, like also uh, uh, with the information of like the symbolic representation of Cisco, yet of the toilet paper, yet of networking, yet of what seemed to be presenting the issue of like the roller coaster, the way the design of like a symbolic analytical representation is of the roller coaster that way, of like Cisco communications and distinguish the difference between private and public and private, or it's going to be the issue of the acronym of SAN software, securities and annuities network, as compared to storage area network, or what the roller coaster ride. I mean, the Highway 288 thing about the RPM, okay, is a manufacturer. I mean, it's just there as and automatically being the thing about music and music video and musicians automatically like an American Idol deal, as well as the RPM of the vinyl, like 33, 45, and 78. Yet at the same time, um, the thing about 800 RPMs is like normal transportation, and what that is to some idea of like a maritime law, as compared to the amphibious side of like what would be the word towing beyond maritime law, what would be of importing and exporting of shipments in the ship channel, and all the color codes that way of like gross national product, and what that is getting into the domestic and um yeah. Yeah, monetary. Yeah, all right. And it seemed to be like that the monetary represents almost like a two-plane, flat-plane surface, more so. Um, of flat being like 39 and angel, um, yet maybe naive into the idea of like maybe my thought of maybe what a preliminary prejudice as product registration of a birth certificate only might mean to like Saint Jacinta Monument, as well as a memorial. Of like some amphibious element, like a monument. And San Jacinto Monument presents itself that way, yet it presents the alphanumerics and in that way in the Houston area. And Houston, in my mind, automatically represents an entire world of communication. Likewise, I see that not so obvious in Pearland, but truthfully, basically as true as it gets. Not so obvious that way, but yeah. But in any case, yeah. So like I think about that because of the Austin Power movies, and what that is to the Austin Powers Blue Bonnet Imperial Eagle, and the sticks of butter, yeah, yeah, the rectangle, okay, and the thing of it is there's only two of them, okay, and Blue Bonnet and Imperial seem to be the thing about the Imperial Eagle, Blue Bonnet, Imperial Eagle, and some idea in that way of like even the Sea of Galilee, and that limited to yet linked all the way from the Sea of Galilee, and like the idea of like Club Med. I mean, if it just has to be like international flow and kind of liquid equity, just to refer to it that way, as compared to the idea of like Zion and Grover Cleveland that way of like 1,000 years of peace, and some idea beyond the separation between church and state that way, the acronym. But anyways, it seemed to be the deal about LASIK laser corrective eye surgery that way out in the Galleria area. And the thing of it is that that going through the Stargate program, I mean, it wasn't even the thing about that area, which was an area I was in like all the time for predominantly pretty close to like a 2-year period, going to the Art Institute of Houston, and out in the Greenway Plaza area, while not far from like the Summit, then the Compact Center, and now Lakewood, and the Israeli Embassy. It seemed to be predominantly in my attention that way of alphanumerics, and many way of the 6-point star resulting from, you know, the pyramid as a two-plane, flat plane, not necessarily three-dimensional isometrics, yet presented that way on the US dollar, yet a schematic being the triangle and the delta force, the big mouth of the river thing, the misappropriation, allocation of Mississippi, and some like idea of the moat around a Kingsmanship representing, you know, what that is in venue and where that's at, as compared to some idea of the mute being, you know, the silence or you know, the practice. You know, here's the deal about, you know, on campus at major universities, in my mind, including soap opera television of like live on air, like legal media and deposition, and like auditing live on air, and anything deviant, you know, would be, you know, the idea of like maybe just not like hearing it that way, but, you know, soap opera in the way of like auditing legal media and deposition of like some real life stuff about it, yeah. And I was going to get into the thing about them. Yeah. Anyway, so the deal about the word plaza, it seemed to be like the building, okay, the logistics and the connectivity of like Austin Powers and the Blue Bonnet, and the flower power thing about Robert Plant and the movie Austin Powers, okay. And the one deal about the wheelbarrow and the Astroworld thing about the Six Flags ultimately getting to the Roosevelt New Deal Act, and some alphanumerics between ABC 13 Houston and all the way to Los Angeles, okay. The ABC 7 is different than 6. And, you know, even the hockey stick being 135 degrees divided by 22.5 is 6, okay. And the reason why a 0.5 is significant, probably, of the one and only, not limited to, being a combine of like the alphanumerics of 45 and God's, and or the ASVAB thing that, and some recruiting offices predominantly, you know, I scored 97% on an ASVAB test, and I mean, I thought that was it, okay. And I find it hard to believe that some idea of like what only classified as would only mean to, I mean, you know, the thought about anyone who knows anything about alphanumerics or been to algebra, I mean, it's not really, you know, suggested other than just like knowing that, you know, the algebraic test of inversion would be, does the answer equal the result? Either it equals or does not, what that line is, you know, on an equal sign, as it does not, yet really, given appearance, we give the equality of appearance, yet in meaning and value, maybe not that at all, or vice versa, as a synonym and anonym in proper English grammatical composition, or in some idea of why one pronoun of 4 types of pronouns cannot be used as a subject, like that would be almost like a silent partnership of business law. Maybe not identify, or some idea of like what having fair use of designating some idea of a sole proprietorship as a silent partner, and like, you know, some idea of like even escrow and terminology that like it seemed to be like the deal about the word hidden, or like ACRA in the way of 44, or oath, or certain factors, and not limited to, there's some other stuff about the alphanumerics of 44. It seemed to be how escrow, and just based upon information, only what I've known, okay, not that I was looking for, it's just like, it was just like there, and remember something about it, okay. And inadvertently with escrow, it had been suggested that it really wasn't implied as hidden, yet at the same time, in reality, studying to be a paralegal. I mean, you know, God, years later, even in real estate, and looking for it, because that was just something I'd remembered, and was actually trying to find the word hidden with escrow in real estate, as compared to what seems to be now a fixture in real estate being used, and what a medical power attorney is, as compared to, you know, what kind of power using a fixture in real estate, whether even if it's going to be a deed restriction based upon programming on television or K television itself, or some idea of a PG-13 and a W-2 presenting, you know, a preliminary prejudice as a product registration of a birth certificate, you know, what the proclamation declaration in the mayor's office ultimately sees, and some idea, you know, some idea of like, you know, a method of banking. I mean, it seemed to be, you know, presenting the Ulysses S. Grant, and some idea of like a debate at a presidential level, yet at the same time it presents some idea of like, you know, something other than participating that way of just like, the total thought of like beyond the treasury, or the categorization of money, or even, the thought of like having fair use, whether, it'd be like an appraisal, of a resurrection. And obviously that happens. And the thing of it is that, I mean, getting above it all, even, the name as in any type of way, like just like anything other than would only be, the real uh, constitutional amending factors, like having a right to assemble, um, as I don't know if I'd really would choose, aggregate, but representative in a way of what only circuit would mean on an analytical way of circuits of monetary domestic gross national product of aggregates that way. And I mean, if repudiation is the only word of jurisprudence identifying some pastel green of my mind automatically, an 18-hole golf course or 2 9-hole golf courses, or the pastel green of like night vision of ambience on a 13-man graphic equalizer, and the impedance being the pastel red, or some jurisprudence book with a black back. I mean, if that's the only hint and color code that way, I mean, all that stuff about advertisement for Sprite, I like Sprite in it. It seemed to be, really quite a bit about that, as well as, the idea of like even British Petroleum. And I think at the beginning, the British Petroleum, if my memory serves me correctly, didn't have the yellow. I think I may have seen it both ways. But it's the same colors as Sprite, yet at the same time, with British Petroleum, I mean, it's obviously, like the black thing, yet it presents yellow that way. Yet at the same time with Sprite, it presents the black with the colors of like the golf course and the pastel green of the book jurisprudence in the law library. And in legal terminology, I mean, if the word repudiation only represents some idea of Abraham Lincoln night vision, and some idea of repudiation representing maybe something that would maybe be only the thought of like not knowing what's going on in annotation, or Roe v. Wade only means to like adoption or abortion, or what a placement means in storage area network as compared to securities and annuities network, and that acronym stuff in reality about, really how law is practiced. I mean, studying African linguistics is like really broaden a more analytical thing that seems to be the only thing that I mean, how could it not be that, when in fact studying analytically color code or symbolic representation and combine and with synonym and improper English numerical composition and Alpha American linguistic. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time like looking at things quite like that. But anyway, in any case, so like it's already going on like 28 minutes, but I was thinking about the awesome powers and thinking about the wheelbarrow, and not that it seemed to be why one pronoun cannot be used as a subject, or the thought of a preliminary prejudice as product registration of a birth certificate, or some idea of Babylon being 7-1 in Pearland, okay, or some idea of what relation means that way between architecture and platform, or some idea of relation being the idea of like what an operator in absolute zero is to the equator in 90 degree. In my mind, seems to be whether it's integrating factors of some of the information I just mentioned as a 90 degree of the one and only latitude being the equator, or some point of origin of like military time and time zone, or what relation only suggests as some idea of like a preliminary prejudice as a product registration of birth certificate, or hey, an entire lifespan, huh? A Babylon thing, huh? Premeditated diapers, huh? So in any case, so like which seemed to be the deal about the memory, okay, and the Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs thing, and even the thing about British Petroleum presenting the fact of knowing that they use the color British Petroleum, and automatically it's like the oil, okay, and not that it's identified as Chase, Alpha America 36, or a telepathic CP. Yet in any case, I mean, it's like 36, or the GIT being geospatial information technology, as compared to only what I see Highway 38, some similarities, and how true it is, what overrides what, or I mean, if that's only the ratio between international superstar or international space station as compared to supplemental security and misappropriation allocation of the Mississippi that way. And the thing about the mute, the moot, MOOT, seem to be like the degree, and it's not even defined that way. But I mean, in reality, like a participating factors of soap operas as compared to like degreed level of like career students being the degreed like thing about moot, MOOT, and mute being like the silence, almost like a silent partner in business law, and what that is, I mean, if it's the issue of sole proprietorship, or some color code that way of Abraham Lincoln night vision, or the thought of a Stargate program or space exploration, and the thing with this is that in color code in business law, I mean, analytically it seemed to be like somehow like it and not it, and or knowing the difference. In any case, so I'd like it seemed to be the deal about the building out there on the west side of the Galleria area, and it being like one of the deals about the ice skating rink, yeah, and the levels out there at the Galleria and shopping out there as compared to some idea of like what seemed to be like a light scribe, invisible programming, and it seemed to be the deal about the technology of laser technology, and it presented the issue of like the availability of what networking has obviously been involved with, like in the Parallax Texas area, presenting I don't want to just say complication. I mean, just the automatic perception of just like getting on a laptop or like using the Wi-Fi, to access that, and realizing some presenting the issue of like availability, and what it seemed to be, whether it's alphanumeric or multinational corporations or banking systems, is just like taking their turn on some idea of musical chairs, okay, and in any case, so like the availability is presented the deal of what access only means if available is only the idea of like intellectual duration, and at the same time it's kind of like come on but anyway, so like it seemed to be the deal about light scribing, invisible programming beyond thought of like beyond the hieroglyphics and biometrics, of like invisible programming. But anyway, it's kind of like it's probably getting close to 4 a.m. now. And I was going to mention the thing about the connectivity between the wheelbarrow, and it seemed to be the thing about the cosmonaut and the astronaut and the Six Flags of thing about the alphanumeric. I was going to include real quick the 135 degree of the hockey stick divided by 22.5 being 6. Okay. Because the double forward slash of the hockey stick is automatically in my mind. How true it is, I'm not even, going to think anything other than it's a 22.5 for my thing about, what a point of origin, seems to be, and that way of like Dodge being the only automobile manufacturer using it on like their car or vehicle as a double forward slash. That's what that means to, International Space Station, the misappropriation allocation of Mississippi, and the HTTP colon representing some idea of like ratio, or the access of like a direct circuit, going beyond the thought of like dimensionally clause or segregation as an easement. Yeah, so like I was thinking about that because of the hockey stick being 135 degrees divided by 22.5, and what that is to the alphanumerics of 45 and Gulf Freeway and I-45 and all that stuff about even Highway 45 in Pearland. Actually 35, but the thing with it is that going all the way to Angleton, and the County Road 45 thing that way, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so like in the connectivity, like what the ratio and scale is, a Highway 35 as compared to I-35 in Austin and Highway 35 in Pearland, and the thing about all that. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to kind of keep it kind of short right there because I really need to get a little bit of sleep here. But anyway, I thought I'd include that real quick. Okay, there it is. Yeah.